Hello. It was supposed to be a regular evening. We were sitting on the couch, me and Jessica, just scrolling through random videos on her phone. We had this habit of laughing at goofy clips or memes together. But that night, something changed. As she was flicking through her phone, a video popped up, and she swiped it away so fast, it almost felt like she panicked. I immediately sensed something was off. My heart skipped a beat, and I tried to keep it light. "Why did you skip that one?" I asked, hoping for some casual excuse. But Jessica's reaction hit me like a slap in the face. She snapped, "I don't owe you any explanations, so just mind your own business." The sharpness in her voice was ice cold, a tone I had never heard from her before. It was like she had turned into a completely different person in a split second. My stomach dropped. I forced myself to stay calm. "That's not like you, Jess. Why are you acting like this?" "You're freaking me out," I said, keeping my tone measured, though inside I was spiraling. Something about this whole situation didn't sit right. Then she said something that shook me to my core, words that left no room for doubt that things were about to go very, very wrong. "Either you drop it, or I show you the video," she spat out. "But if I do, we're done. I'll break up with you right there." I felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling. Her voice was calm but full of menace, like she knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't even try to reassure me or explain it away. Nothing. She just hit me with this cold ultimatum. My head started spinning. Why would she even have a video that could destroy our relationship? I hesitated. A part of me wanted to demand she show me the video, to tear off the bandage and get it over with. But the other part of me, the part that still cared about her, didn't want to know. I wasn't ready to lose everything just yet. So I caved. "Fine," I muttered. "I'll drop it." But I couldn't. Not really. The whole night her reaction lingered like a bad taste in my mouth, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Jessica tried to brush it off, claiming the video was just of her friend making out with some guy. That only made things worse. Why would she have that? And why lie about it in the first place? Especially when she hadn't even spoken to that friend in over a year, and her phone was barely a few months old. The pieces didn't add up, and I knew I wasn't getting the whole truth. The problem was, I couldn't forget about it. I couldn't unsee that flash of guilt on her face when the video appeared, or the venom in her voice when she told me to back off. It stuck with me like a splinter under my skin. Jessica's dad had always been a cheater, and she'd constantly defended him, calling him misunderstood. Was she just like him? Was I blind this whole time? I started doubting myself, questioning everything. Was I being paranoid, or was I right? Talking to my friends about it was out of the question. Too many mutual connections, and I wasn't ready to deal with their opinions. So, I kept it to myself, stewing in my own thoughts, unsure if I was losing my mind, or if I had uncovered a hidden truth I wasn't prepared to face. Days passed, but that unsettling feeling gnawed at me, tightening its grip. Every time I saw Jessica, it was like a shadow loomed over us, a secret just waiting to explode. She acted like everything was fine, plastering on her usual bright smile, but I knew her too well to buy it. There was something hiding beneath the surface, and no amount of fake cheerfulness could mask it. We were supposed to meet for dinner that week, and I spent every second leading up to it obsessing over what I would say. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. My mind raced, imagining every possible outcome. What if she blew up again? What if she stormed out? Worse yet, what if I was wrong? By the time I got to the restaurant, I was wound tight, nerves eating away at my stomach. When I walked in, there she was, sitting at the table, looking perfect. Too perfect. She was dressed in her favorite red dress, her hair styled like she knew I loved it, her smile brighter than ever. She looked excited for the date, but that only made me more suspicious. It felt staged, like she was putting on a performance. "Hey, babe," she greeted me with that overly sweet tone, pulling me into a hug, her perfume thick in the air. But I wasn't fooled. Not this time. Every laugh, every little gesture felt fake, like she was playing a part, waiting for me to forget what had happened. We sat down, and she launched right into small talk, not even letting me get a word in. It was like she was trying to drown out the tension with idle chatter, hoping I wouldn't bring up the elephant in the room. But the more she talked, the more I felt the pressure build inside me. I had to say something. I had to confront her. The waiter came by, dropping off drinks. Jessica thanked him with a bright smile, then turned back to me, batting her eyes in that way she always did when she wanted to distract me from something serious. "So, what's on your mind?" she asked, still keeping up the act, still playing innocent. I clenched my jaw, feeling my pulse quicken. It was now or never. "We need to talk," I said, my voice quieter than I intended but firm enough to cut through the forced pleasantries. Her smile faltered, just for a second, but then she recovered, shrugging casually. "About what?" she asked, still pretending like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, gripping the edge of the table. "The way you acted, the way you snapped at me. It was out of line, Jess. It was," I hesitated, searching for the right words. "It was abusive, honestly." That fake smile dropped completely, replaced by a glare I had seen before. She didn't even hesitate to cut me off. "If you're going to ruin the night with this, I don't want to have dinner with you," she said sharply, already shifting in her chair, ready to make a scene and walk out. This was her routine. Whenever I tried to confront her about something uncomfortable, she would pull away, expecting me to chase her down and apologize for bringing it up. I had fallen for it every single time in the past, groveling to fix things even when it wasn't my fault. But not tonight. "Okay," I said, keeping my tone calm, even though my heart was racing. The word hung in the air between us like a challenge. Jessica blinked, clearly not expecting that. She had been prepared for a fight, for me to beg her to stay, but I wasn't playing along anymore. "Fine," she snapped, standing up and grabbing her purse. She didn't even look back as she stormed toward the door. I watched her leave, feeling my chest tighten, but I didn't move. This time, I wasn't running after her. I wasn't going to beg. I just sat there, staring at the empty seat across from me, feeling a strange mixture of relief and dread. The waiter approached, awkwardly noticing the tension. "Will she be coming back?" he asked politely. I shook my head, forcing a smile. "No, I don't think so," I muttered. I tossed a couple of bills on the table, apologizing to the waiter for the mess, then walked out. As soon as I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face and the realization sunk in. I had actually let her go. For the first time, I hadn't followed her, hadn't caved. But the victory felt hollow. As much as I had wanted to stand my ground, it still hurt like hell. When I got home, I was half in tears, sitting on the edge of my bed, replaying the whole night in my head. Normally, I would be pacing, ranting to myself, trying to figure out how to fix things. But this time, I just sat there, numb. It wasn't in my nature to let something like this end without a fight, but maybe that was exactly why I needed to. I needed to stop fighting for someone who wasn't fighting for me. Just as I started to settle in, trying to distract myself with some mindless TV, my phone rang. It was Jessica. I stared at the screen, hesitating, my hand hovering over the decline button, but I answered. I picked up the phone, fully expecting Jessica's typical barrage of excuses or manipulations. But this time, something was different. On the other end, she was crying, but it did not sound like her usual crocodile tears. It was raw, panicked. "Why do you always have to ruin everything?" she sobbed, her voice thick with emotion. It was a question that cut deeper than it should have. I was tired, so damn tired of being the one blamed for everything. That was when I lost it. All the frustration, the doubts, the anger, it just exploded. "Ruin everything?" I shouted, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and rage. "How about how you treat me like a doormat? How I have to walk on eggshells every time I talk to you? And let's not forget about that video you hid from me." Her sobbing quieted for a moment, and then, through stifled tears, she whispered, "I know you're still stuck on that video." I was pacing my apartment now, trying to calm myself down, but her words set me off again. "It's not even about the video anymore," I snapped. "It's about the way you treat me, Jess. This whole relationship is just me, constantly trying to please you, and it's never enough." There was a long, tense silence, and then, almost too quietly to hear, she said, "Okay, I'll tell you what it was." My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't expected her to admit anything, but I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. It wasn't my friend making out with someone. It was me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. With some guy. My heart stopped. What? I managed to choke out, my hands shaking as I gripped the phone. It happened right before we started dating, she continued, her words rushing out now, as if confessing quickly would somehow lessen the blow. We weren't official yet. I thought it was okay to, keep my options open. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. And you kept that video? Months into us dating? I deleted it, she said, her voice trembling. I swear I deleted it. I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. A big deal? I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. You were hiding a video of you with another guy, and you didn't think it was a big deal? She was crying harder now, but I didn't care. I was too angry to care. Too hurt. I said I'm sorry, she sobbed, but it was too late. There was no coming back from this. It's not about the video anymore, I said, my voice flat, emotionless. It's about how you've treated me. It's over. There was silence on the other end. Then, in the smallest voice, she whispered, okay, if you say so. That was it. I hung up the phone, my hand shaking, and blocked her on everything. My heart was racing, adrenaline pumping through my veins, but I knew this was the end. I was done. For a few moments, I just stood there in the middle of my living room, staring at the phone as if it might somehow give me answers. But there were no answers. There was only silence. I slumped down onto the couch, running my hands through my hair, trying to process everything. Jessica had been keeping that video as some kind of twisted souvenir, and all this time, I had been blind to it. How many other lies had she told? How much had she kept hidden? But as I sat there, something else started gnawing at me, a darker thought that I had been pushing aside since that night. Why had she kept the video? What if it wasn't just about her keeping her options open? What if there was something more to this? That was when the unexpected twist hit me like a freight train. As I sat there, staring into the darkness of my apartment, a thought clawed its way into my mind. One I had been too furious to consider earlier. Why would she keep that video? People make mistakes, sure, but holding on to something like that. It felt more intentional, more sinister. And then it hit me. What if it wasn't a memento at all? What if it wasn't from before we started dating? A cold wave of dread washed over me. Suddenly, the timeline she had given me, the shaky excuses, the way she had so desperately avoided showing me the video, it all started to make sense. What if the video was recent? What if she had been seeing someone while we were together? The thought made me feel sick to my stomach. I couldn't shake the image of her with another guy, laughing behind my back, keeping her options open not just before we started dating, but the entire time. I had spent months, years, giving her the benefit of the doubt, believing every excuse, ignoring the red flags. How much of what she told me had been a lie? I grabbed my phone, scrolling through our old texts, trying to find any clues I might have missed, but there was nothing. Jessica had always been careful, always covering her tracks, but I couldn't let it go. Not now. Not after everything. I decided to check her social media one last time before blocking her on everything. And that's when I found it. It was a tagged photo. Someone had posted it just a few days ago. In the picture, Jessica was at a party, some event I hadn't even known about. But that wasn't the part that made my heart stop. Standing next to her, with his arm around her waist, was a guy I had never seen before. They weren't just posing casually. They looked intimate. My pulse quickened as I clicked through the account. There were more photos, each one more damning than the last. There was no mistaking the way she was looking at him, no denying the familiarity in their body language. This wasn't some random guy. This was someone she knew. Someone she had been seeing behind my back. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She had been cheating on me the whole time. The video wasn't from before we were together. It was recent. That's why she had panicked. That's why she gave me the ultimatum. She was scared I would figure it out. I felt like a fool. I had trusted her, defended her, ignored every instinct telling me something was wrong, and this was how it ended. The perfect girlfriend, the one I thought I was going to spend my life with, had been betraying me all along. My hands shook as I blocked her on every platform. It was over. Really over this time. But as I sat there, staring blankly at the wall, something strange happened. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal. It all started to fade, replaced by a strange sense of relief. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt free. I had been trapped in this toxic cycle with Jessica for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to be without her constant manipulation, her games. Yes, the truth hurt, but in a weird way, it also set me free. In the days that followed, I tried to piece together everything I had missed. It was hard not to think about it. How long it had been going on, how many times she had lied straight to my face. The weight of the betrayal felt unbearable at times. Every quiet moment, I would catch myself thinking back to little details I had ignored. Phone calls she would take in another room, sudden excuses for why she couldn't see me, those vague mentions of friends I never met. Everything fell into place, but the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Not just at her, but at myself for letting it drag on for so long. The twisted part of it all was that Jessica hadn't even tried to hide her infidelity after that night. She never reached out to explain or defend herself. It was like she knew it was over and didn't care. In a way, that made it easier to move on. At least there wasn't any more manipulation. But then something happened that made everything spiral even more. I got a message from an unknown number late one night. I almost didn't check it, thinking it was spam or some telemarketer. But when I opened it, the message sent a chill down my spine. "We need to talk. It's about Jessica. You don't know everything." There was no name, no introduction, just that cryptic message. My hands trembled as I stared at my phone. Who could this be? And what did they mean I didn't know everything? For a moment, I considered ignoring it. I had already blocked Jessica and thought I had severed all ties to her drama. But curiosity got the better of me. I responded, "Who is this?" The reply came almost immediately. "You don't know me, but I know about you. Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything. You deserve to know the truth." The message ended with an address to a coffee shop downtown. My gut twisted. Every part of me screamed that this was a bad idea, that I should just leave it all behind and move on with my life. But something in that message, it felt real. Like this wasn't just another game Jessica was playing. Whoever this person was, they knew something important, and I needed answers. The next morning, I headed to the coffee shop, my mind racing with possibilities. What could they know that I didn't already? Was this some kind of prank? Or maybe it was one of Jessica's friends trying to stir up more trouble. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into something dangerous, but I had to know. When I arrived, I scanned the room, trying to figure out who had sent the message. That's when I saw him. A guy sitting alone in the corner, staring straight at me. I had never seen him before, but somehow, I knew it was him. I walked over and sat down, my heart pounding in my chest. He didn't say anything at first, just looked me over as if he were sizing me up. Finally, he leaned forward and said, "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but Jessica, she's not who you think she is." I blinked, trying to keep my composure. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tight with tension. He sighed, rubbing his hands together nervously. "I was seeing her too, for months. But it's more than that." My head started to spin. "More than that?" "She wasn't just cheating on us," he said, his voice lowering as if someone might overhear. "She's been using us. For money, for attention. She's done this before. I found out after we started seeing each other. There are others, a lot of others. She keeps them all strung along." My stomach churned. "You're lying," I said, my voice barely a whisper, though deep down, I already knew he wasn't. He shook his head. "I'm not. I found out when I started digging around. Jessica isn't who she says she is. She's been playing both of us. Hell, she's probably still stringing some other poor guy along right now." My mind reeled. Everything I thought I knew about Jessica, the girl I had loved, the one I had thought I would spend my life with, crumbled before me. She hadn't just cheated. She had manipulated me, lied to me, and used me. All this time, I had been a pawn in her twisted little game. The room felt like it was spinning. My heart pounded in my ears, and I could barely hear what the guy in front of me was saying. Jessica, my Jessica, had been manipulating us both. But it wasn't just cheating. No, this was something darker. She had been using me, using him, using who knows how many other men, for her own twisted gain. I wanted to yell, to scream at him, to accuse him of lying. But deep down, I knew he was telling the truth. His eyes, his expression, it was the same as mine. He was just another victim, caught in the same web of deceit. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process what I had just heard. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I managed to ask, my voice shaky. "I only found out a couple of weeks ago," he said, his face filled with regret. "I thought I was the only one she was playing. But then I started seeing the patterns, recognizing the lies. And when I found out about you, I knew I had to say something." My mind was reeling, trying to put the pieces together. Everything started to make sense. The sudden shifts in her behavior, the secrecy, the way she always kept me just close enough to think things were fine, only to push me away when I got too close. It wasn't love. It was control. The guy in front of me sighed, shaking his head. "Look, man, I don't expect you to believe me right away, but I've got proof." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. My pulse quickened as he swiped through his messages and pulled up a conversation between him and Jessica. My heart dropped as I read the texts. They were recent, within the last few weeks. She was talking to him the same way she had always talked to me, making promises, toying with his emotions, stringing him along. And then I saw something that made me feel physically ill. In the messages, she talked about the money she had been getting from both of us. I hadn't realized how much I had been spending on her. Gifts, vacations, dinners out, but it was all there, listed in cold, heartless detail. She even joked about it, laughing at how easy it was to get us to pay for everything. I felt my stomach churn, while rising in my throat. This wasn't just cheating. This was a scam. I had been nothing more than a source of income, a plaything to keep around until I wasn't useful anymore. I shoved my chair back, standing up abruptly. "I can't believe this," I muttered, running a hand through my hair. The guy nodded, understanding. I didn't believe it at first either, but I've spoken to 2 other guys. Same story. She's been doing this for years, man. She finds guys, makes them fall for her, and then bleeds them dry. I clenched my fists, feeling the anger bubble up inside me. How could I have been so blind? How had I let her manipulate me like this? I had trusted her. I had loved her. And she had used me like a pawn in her twisted game. But then, something clicked. As much as it hurt to know the truth, I finally had closure. Jessica had been playing me, and now I was free from her lies. I wasn't going to be one of her victims anymore. I looked at the guy across from me. "Thanks for telling me," I said, my voice steadier now. "I'm sorry you had to go through this too." He gave me a sad smile. "Yeah, well, at least we know the truth now. That's something, right?" I nodded, though the bitterness still clung to my chest. "Yeah, that's something." We stood up and shook hands, a silent understanding passing between us. We had both been through hell, but at least now we were on the other side. As I walked out of the coffee shop, the cold air hit my face, and I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. It was over. Jessica's web of lies had been exposed, and I was free. Sure, it hurt like hell, but I knew that I had learned something from all of this. I had learned to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, and to never let someone manipulate me again. I blocked Jessica's number one last time, not out of anger, but out of a need for peace. I was done with her, done with the lies, the games, the manipulation. She no longer had control over me. As I walked down the street, feeling lighter than I had in months, I knew this chapter of my life had finally closed. The storm had passed, and for the first time in a long time, I was ready to start again, on my terms, without Jessica's shadow hanging over me. Maybe one day I would look back on this and be grateful for what I learned. But for now, I was just glad to be free. Bye-bye.